You're the president in your divorce. You make the decisions. You determine why we are moving forward. And your attorney is the general. They determine how to move forward, how to achieve your objectives. I mean, they can give you options, but you ultimately choose which options. They have more experience than you in dealing with these issues. And that's why it's so important to pick the right general for you. Are you going to pick a wartime general, which is probably more of a trial attorney, a litigator, or maybe a more peaceful or peacetime general who's more into cooperative or collaborative types of resolutions? Now think about these things. This is the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. I'm Corey Shapiro. This is a family-first podcast because today's choices really can impact your child's future. And the biggest mistake in divorce is not generally legal. It's in your emotional reactions. And when I was a younger attorney, I had this case where the other side was being so difficult. And they made us go all the way to trial, which is unusual in divorce. And at the trial, I prepared so much because I was an early, young attorney. I probably over-prepared, thinking I was going to the Supreme Court of the United States when it was just a local case. And I did such a good job, or at least in my mind, I did such a good job after doing the direct of my client and the cross-examination of the other side, that the judge said at the end, I'm going to make a decision, but I wanted to see if you two can finally have a settlement discussion before I do that. And then in the halls, the other side comes over to me and says, we're settling, because they were scared. And they offered something that was objectively reasonable. But the problem was I was lost in my reactions because I was wondering, why couldn't they have made this proposal months ago, before I had to prepare for the trial, before my client incurred all these expenses? Why couldn't that happen? And my client and I were upset, and we were emotional, and we rejected the settlement proposal because we thought we were confident. Yeah, there was a risk, but we did such a good job at trial. And we did. Well, when the judge came back, the judge went against us, and we lost. So the lesson is that don't usually lose things legally. You lose things in your emotional reactions. And let me just put my lawyer hat on here to explain what's really going on. There is an outer game and an inner game. There's two games of this divorce world. And the outer game is what your attorney is doing, or if you're in mediation, it's the negotiations, the settlement positions you're ascending, the conferences, doing all the paperwork. That's the outer game. That moves the case forward. But there's also the inner game. What is driving all of this? And that's really what's unseen. Okay. And I want you to think about yourself, and this is what I tell my clients all the time. You're the president in your divorce. You make the decisions. You determine why we are moving forward. And your attorney is the general. They determine how to move forward, how to achieve your objectives. I mean, they can give you options, but you ultimately choose which options. They have more experience than you in dealing with these issues. And that's why it's so important to pick the right general for you. Are you going to pick a wartime general, which is probably more of a trial attorney, a litigator, or maybe a more peaceful or peacetime general who's more into cooperative or collaborative types of resolutions? Now think about these things. The more you can be clear on your vision, on why it's important to you, and less involved in your emotional reactions like I was at that trial, the better president, the better decisions you're going to make. So remember, the lawyer plays the outer game, you play the inner game, but the inner game drives your divorce. All right, let me give you one action step in this episode for you to work on. What I want you to think about is 24-hour pause. Now, sometimes you don't have 24 hours. Like I didn't have 24 hours to think about in that trial, but you can think forward about issues that are going to come up. And that's where I want you to think about this. And I could have thought that this might happen. I might do well at trial. They might come back with a settlement proposal that was halfway reasonable. How am I going to react? I didn't address those issues with my client because I was too young and inexperienced. But of course, now I will. So all I want you to do is when you get activated, and it's going to happen, it's really going to happen, triggered, activated, whatever you call it, wait 24 hours. And I know with AI, you can rewrite things and make it sound all nice, but your emotional response needs time to reset. And that's why I still want you to give it 24 hours. Okay. So try to do that. And let's just think about two paths. If one person chose the 24-hour pause, instead of reacting, they reflected, how would that person's divorce be months or years in the future? Think about that person. Because I kind of think if it's like compound interest, it just gets better and better as time goes on. And then think about another person who just reacted, just playing checkers, not being thoughtful, just spending their money, now, thinking about now. And how is that going to move forward in months and years? You see the differences? Yeah. That's why the biggest mistake is generally not legal. It's in your reactions. And try to do that 24-hour pause. Now I got you. I got you in this podcast. Now the next episode, we're going to focus on the 4 resources of divorce, because divorce is really a capacity problem. This is Corey Shapiro. Let's step forward with clarity together.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.